right. Hold on, let's see. All right. Looks. All right. Stream setup. Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. I'm only going to stream for like maybe 30, 45 minutes. Um, but so today I kind of like got into Blender. I just wanted to practice, and apparently this is like the easy rig that's going on that I learned so far. It's basically just like a ball rig, you know. And honestly, like I've been transitioning from using Maya to using Blender a lot more, and I've been enjoying it way more. Um, it just feels more intuitive. But yeah, so today I'm just gonna, build this and then just talk about stuff, really. Um, all right, so yeah, let's just start a new scene. Save. All right. So first thing I want to do is make sure this is there. I'm not actually. You know what? Maybe I should go into like teaching a bit. Um, I don't know. I kind of wanted to jump into using Unreal because I mean using Blender because I don't know. It's just I saw like okay like let's just talk about like how much it costs to actually use software now. I'm used to using software that once you buy it, it's yours. It's perpetual, so you don't have to worry about doing subscription. But like everything has like swapped into being subscription based, and it's kind of crazy. Like okay, if we're talking about like AI, essentially, I don't want to say it's taking people's jobs. I think it's more like corporate is leaning into AI rather than human artists because they think it's gonna be cheaper. I mean, we could talk about like the climate issues that come with using AI, but that's like a whole other conversation too. Did I make a new bone? Okay, let's make another bone. There's the cursor, GY, and this is going to be the root. Deformation, I think. So honestly, like, I think it's definitely shaken up the industry, but I'm not sure if it's something that we have to worry about long term. I mean, obviously, long term, it's already changed how a lot of things are going to be. Like, that technology is going to be here to stay, regardless of what we have to say about it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be how we end up using it in unison with the environment because there was like that report that came out about like we only have about what 14 years of clean drinking water left. That's insane, honestly. And the fact that like people continue to use AI despite that is kind of crazy, honestly. Let's pant this to the root. Let's just make sure it's moving. All right, there we go. Let's go back to here. Yeah, so this isn't meant to be like a tutorial because I'm still practicing. Um, so I can't really be that educator about this right now, especially since I don't want to teach something wrong, you know? Oop. Oops. Cursor. Okay. This is going to be CH squash. Then an edit. Let's just make this. Yeah, honestly, this is just me practicing because what I want to do. So I already finished watching this tutorial. I finished watching the tutorial with like the This is the P2 design. That guy, he has like a tutorial for like rigging. I think I'll link it or just put it in the comments. Cause I actually didn't put it in the description. But it's such a good course. He's very descriptive as far as like everything goes. But yeah, transitioning my entire well, most of my workflow in Blender is definitely going to be a challenge. But honestly, it's powerful. It's a powerful tool. I know it's a competitor to like. I don't want to say it's a competitor to ZBrush, but it can. It's a good alternative. It's a decent alternative to Houdini too. Just blend it with Unreal, and I think it's gonna be pretty good. But anyways, so I gotta do this. Shift C, switch to pose. Oops. What the heck? What's going on there? Okay. Why is that doing that? That's weird. What's going on there? The location is locked for some reason. Huh. Maybe I'll just make a new one. Alright, so squash top. So that means that broke. What is going on there? Just go back. Or you know, I'm just gonna delete it. Let's make a new one. Z. Let's make it locked. Make sure it's locked there. But yeah, I think as artists, like we definitely, I think what we need to do as artists is try not to pass that picket line, well, cross the picket line and continue to use AI. I mean, like at the end of the day, the climate issues alone should be enough for us to stop, let alone the idea of it replacing us in the future. Like it's legitimately, I've seen a few artists who are already notable and that they've been using it as part of their workflow. But the way how I see that is like, one of the things that we talk about as a generation is how like when boomers, got that success, they pulled the ladder up right behind them. So it was a lot harder for people like millennials or the Gen X's to actually find their footing in that stage of success, especially with the shit that we're going through now. I feel like if we kind of just entertain, oh well, the tool's here to stay. There's nothing we can do. No, no, there's nothing we can do. There is something that we can do, and it's to not use it. And a lot of it is essentially being pushed by corporations who have the money to advertise and to invest in companies that think it's something that's going to be used. And in that way, I see it's like it's no different than NFTs that were like, the most popular thing at a time. And I think like what was that guy's name, Beeple or something? He made like a couple $1,000,000 selling them or selling his art or whatever he did. But it's like AI. It's Gen AI is very different. It's very different, and in the sense of like the destruction that it's doing currently, but also just it's a fad. It's something it's like how like Ave, like somebody will say, oh, that's lit, and it's cool. It's cool because most people are saying it's lit, but it's the people that made it cool. And now corporations are like, hey, it's gonna be lit down here in this restaurant, and it's like, bro, you sound like an old person. Basically, it's the old generation trying to tell us what's cool, and that's AI. That's Gen AI. They themselves don't understand it. Most people don't understand it. But if anything, I think it's kind of interesting because it's kind of like emulating colonization, you know? Okay, did I do it right? I know it's this. Let me try it this way. Shift, stretch to. Okay, that's weird. What? Why is it rotating? See, I'm still pretty new, so this is something I don't really know how to fix. But it's weird, it's only doing that with that. Huh, I wonder what's happening there. Huh. Hmm. Okay, let's try that again. What's happening here? That isn't mirroring right now. You snap, project. Is it because it's. Hmm. That generally shouldn't be doing that. I wonder what it could be. Anyways, the way I see it is that AI is a bit like. It's essentially a lot like colonization, you know? Or like, yeah, a lot like colonization, you know? Just having what you did stolen by somebody else and them taking not just the credit but uh, making money or finding success off of your own work, and and it's so interesting that that's essentially what AI is doing. um, but the other thing I did want to touch on was like ice and how like I think Trump is the president that represents America the best. And I think when you don't know America's history, it's like, what? Trump of all people? I was like, yeah. Somebody who is essentially a snake oil salesman who, lies to people about their own success when really all they're doing is just taking credit for other people's work. And even then, it's like it's shoddy because it's a pale comparison to the real thing, a lot like AI. Okay. Hmm. Hey, that's interesting. It looks like it has. Hmm. Yeah, and when it comes to ice, like I think as a country, they should be the example. What is going on here? Maybe I should start a new scene. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Okay, maybe I did something wrong on my end, but like I said, and that's exactly why I don't want to try to explain exactly what it is that I'm doing. edit mode. Oh shoot, I'm probably making a bunch of bones. Selection. Cursor GY. This will be the root. This will be the deformation bone. Let's change this. Grid, Shift D, S. This would be the rotation bone. Then I'll parent this to the rotation bone. I'll parent the rotation bone to the root. So this way. Oh wait, did I? I think I did. Okay, so we're good. All right. So next, we go to object mode. So select this, edit mode. Shift S, cursor to selected. And edit mode, Shift A. Let's put this up. And maybe I'll start from here instead. Right, let's go from the top. E to extrude, Y. So it's locked. And Shift R to repeat that. Let's see if it does the same thing. So now in pose mode, stretch 2. What is going on? I'm pretty sure that's how you do it. Unless I'm doing the wrong function. No, it's stretch 2. Ah, okay, I see. Okay, I was doing it right. Okay, so here, let's do this. Pose mode. Okay. It's doing that, but here it does it correctly. Okay, let's just see if this actually works out. Rotation. Right, there we go. Rotation. Okay. All right. Alright, so now it's parented and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what happened there exactly. Maybe it's because it wasn't fully connected. That's probably what it was. Anyways, let's name these MCH, squash. That's the root. Then this would be squash top. And squash bottom. Yeah, I think honestly, like, we talk about how the solution would be, abolishing ICE or, abolishing the police because of the brutality. But the reality of the situation is like, even if we were to, impeach somebody like Trump or impeach the entire cabinet, the same issue would persist. And the reason why is because the core issue that America faces is that it's the issue of racism on top of classism. um, and I've already had debates and conversations about how, like, this is a class war, which is true. Yeah, it's very true. It's definitely a class war because we're seeing the gap between the rich and the poor becoming bigger and bigger. But the other thing that really upholds that, so the other thing that upholds that is actually racism and how the prejudice of feeling uh, like it's two things, I think, or two core things that are part of the issue. One being racism in the sense that, like, it's very easy for a person who isn't a person of color or isn't black uh, can get into the mindset of, like, oh well, at least I'm not the person that's being targeted. So if I keep my mouth shut, then nothing's going to happen to me. And we're seeing that issue just basically, or we're seeing that idea go up in flames with the recent or killings that we've seen happen with ICE, because white people died. And the other aspect to it is, like, wealth or how much money somebody makes, the career that they get into, the where they go in life, at least like within the capitalistic frame, and their lack of not making money is entirely their fault, and it's not the systems around them that basically push them to fail. Like we look at the healthcare system and how exorbitant the prices are alone to get healthcare that isn't even decent if we're being real. Like it isn't even the best type of healthcare because big farmers pushing all the pills for you to basically take that they don't tell you that maybe 20 years down the line you might end up getting some type of cancer because and I don't want to skirt away from the fact that it's like healthcare at the end of the day is like we are going to need it. The pharmaceuticals, there are things that they do to actually help people, but the biggest thing that I always hear from people, especially people from outside the country, or even just going outside the country, is like there's no other country in the world that advertises fucking pharmaceuticals, and that's just one of the issues. And then we talk about education and how there's already that price point of actually getting any kind of proper education, and if people can't even afford to pay for education, then how can they open themselves up to opportunities for upward mobility, let alone opening themselves up to a network that can actually help them get places. I mean, social media, a huge double edged sword in the sense that it's been able to connect people across the planet with each other for us all to realize that we're all pretty much the same at the end of the day. But also on top of that, it helped us, be able to bypass the idea of getting an education and putting ourselves six figures into debt in order to get a job that will never be able to pay those loans off. And now you have people on the internet. You have like a 10-year-old making millions of dollars a year just reviewing toys, or people doing reactions, or that latest TikTok star who made the jingle and now she got paid $2 million. So in a lot of ways, that new world is already kind of here, and it's kind of like fighting with the world that we grew up with. And the world that we grew up with was, again, get an education, get a job, and stay in that career as long as you can, get promoted, and make your boss money. Like that was the lie that we believed for so long, and we're seeing now that it isn't something that helps anybody, regardless of your color. I mean, obviously, throughout history, black and brown people haven't been able to take a piece of that pie of what was supposed to be the American dream. But again, now we're seeing a lot of that go up in flames, and in part due to the arrogance that comes with racism, the feeling, this idea that if this black person is in a position higher than me, then DEI got them there. If they're in higher education, DEI got them there, and not their own merit, not their own harder work. And the one thing I've noticed as somebody I've been working technically since I was 13. I kind of forged my mom's signature because you're not supposed to be able to work at 13. At least at least at that age, and I've worked a lot of jobs, and getting into corporate, it was just it blows my mind that these jobs, these minimum wage jobs have such a higher bar for being able to do that job, because it's hands-on work. You're working with people, so people can see physically if you can or can't do the job. Whereas in corporate, it's sales, it's marketing, it's advertise. A lot of it's bullshit, and I think a lot of people are realizing that as they work through it. And I think Gen Z has been the generation that's been pointing that out a lot more, and how it's fruitless, because in corporate you're just a number, and you can be fired. You can be fired at a moment's notice and have to figure it out. But hey, thank God we got to give that 2 weeks notice in, right? Just to let them know, just in case. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna make the controls for this. Because right now I think the parenting and stuff is all good, but now we're just gonna do the controllers so that it's like fully rigged or complete at least. Um, but yeah, like I said, when it comes down to let's see, I actually forgot the acronym for this thing that I'm supposed to do. But I'm just gonna say MCH. Don't remember exactly. It was an MPT. I don't remember. Again, still going through this tutorial, but when it comes to solutions that we can possibly, deal with as a society, like at least like here in the States or even in the West, is like I think non-white people, we need to figure out how to take like we definitely have to figure out how to take care of ourselves, but within the framing of the existing system, or as it exists right now. But ultimately, white people need to hold each other accountable because racism is a white person's issue. Like if we're seeing on polls like more than 50% of white people voted for Trump in office. And, when it comes down to his first year in office, which was, it felt like 100 years, um, the approval rating from the white community, it's like dropping slow, like not immediate. And this is off of like January 6th. This is off of, you know, that entire 4 years of him complaining that he didn't lose the election, that it was rigged. I mean, like, we can question what's rigged now, but I don't know. Sometimes I worry I could be saying too much, but at the same time, it's like, do we really want to live in a world where we see everything going on right now, and because we want to make money, something that is made up, we want to keep making that money when we can live in a world where food and education and healthcare and housing could be free or more affordable. Instead, we'll just stick to the the world that's crumbling, that's being destroyed. It's already gone. We can stick to that world, which is basically slavery with extra steps, in my opinion. Um, or we can stand up together as a group. And I think overwhelmingly we're seeing on social media, and I think a lot of it has to do with the recent killings with ICE, that people are speaking up and they are seeing how how screwed up this system actually is, how screwed up a lot of these billionaires actually are. And my biggest hope is that we realize collectively, not just here in the States, but across the planet, that it's we the people who work. Because if it's an entire factory and the CEO, the boss is telling everyone, there's like 100 of us, all of you have to ignore your family. You're gonna come in and you're gonna work 60 hours a week. Yeah, I'm gonna pay you, but I'm gonna also be making way more than any of you will ever even make in your entire lives. And on top of that, I just broke this. And on top of that, I'm gonna contribute to making the cost of living go higher. It won't bother me because this is nothing for me. I'll make more than enough. But you guys can figure it out. And I'm not gonna higher your rates because why would I pay you more? That sounds like theft or something. And anyways, I just think collectively we're realizing that it's like we're the ones who are bringing that value to any of these corporations, whether it be any corporation. We, the people who are working those jobs, are the ones who bring the value to it. And I guess like one thing that helped me think about that is definitely A Bug's Life, but I also think about Fight Club with Edward Norton and Brad Pitt, and how it's like, oh, we're the ones who watch you while you sleep. You know, we're the ones who guard you while you sleep. We're the ones who make all your food. We're the ones who, drive the buses. Drive the trucks to get rid of the dumpster. We're the ones who, get things moving so that we can trade things amongst each other. And and I think more and more people are waking up to that. Because I think for me, I've kept quiet about a lot of this because I believe like it had to be like 2014, 2015 when I tried to organize uh, no work boycott, where we just don't go to work, and a lot of it was inspired by the boycott, and I think it was Iceland, where a bunch of women, a lot of their rights were essentially being uh, attacked, and instead of trying to compromise with these people who are clearly not listening to them, they said, fine, if you think our work doesn't help contribute to a better society, then we're just going to withhold our work. And it took them 2 days before the government uh, begged them to tell them what they wanted. And that's why Iceland is, well, I don't want to say that's why Iceland is where it is today, but I do think that contributed to a lot of why, they don't have to worry about a lot of the same issues that we do here in the States. So I don't know. When it comes to solutions, I just wonder, like, are we like I feel like we just have to ask ourselves that question. It's like, do we want to suffer for 2 or 3 days, or even a week, or even a month? Because I don't know how long it would last. Or do we want to suffer for the rest of our lives? And I feel like that's the real question. When it comes down to doing a boycott, of like not going to work, of not paying rent, or taxes, anything like that. Um, Yeah, that's really the question. It's like, do you want this to continue? Because we're the ones who contribute to making this whole system continue, or do we want to withhold that labor and demand that we decide? We're the ones who decide how that's going to run, and that goes for all like most issues that we face in this country, like healthcare, education, all these things. Like, do we? And I guess like I'm gonna dial it down a bit more, but do we prop it up by continue to going to work, by continuing to pay our bills, continuing to pay our taxes, or do we actually withhold that and say, no, you guys are our representatives. You should be working for us, the people, not for just yourselves. But again, I do think people are waking up to that. Okay, well, anyways, let's go ahead and start making. Already hit this. Okay, so first thing I want to do is create a circle. Let's go ahead and Shift C, selection of cursor, change this to bounding box. Just gonna make this a bit bigger and duplicate that 3 times. Let's start with this one. Let's Control Shift H. Oh, there we go. Yeah, these are just my opinions. Just my thoughts on the world. At least like the shit that we're dealing with now. F2. So this will be. I'll just put MCH. I don't think that's it, but screw it. At least the acronym. I think that stands for like mechanical. Hold on. I mean, ultimately, I look forward to the world that's going to exist after we get through this weird time period. I think target bones. Oh, it's TGT. Okay. I do look forward to how things are going to look after all of this, and I truly think that. This one can be squash. GT squash. And H. And this will be. Oh, well, let me fix this up real quick. But yeah, I think what's happening now, what we're seeing, is a lot of people starting to lean more into community, and I hate that this was what we're going through now is what's kicking it off. But I do like that, people are. We're seeing what humanity is, and we're seeing that in Minnesota. We're seeing that all across the country, all across the world, actually, where people are just like, nah, we're not gonna, we're not gonna just take this because what, 10 people want the world to look a certain way. 10 people, when like there's like 100 million of us, or like millions of us, hundreds of millions of us. At least here in the states, it's like, there's billions. There's billions. I know there's about like 8 billion of us on the planet, but um, I'm just glad that we're collectively standing up to this bullshit. Even if it took us a minute to actually get here, we're actually we're actually standing up for each other. And as much as like we can point out what's going on with like ICE and everybody protesting ICE, that kind of stuff, but I think the first example of this was like during the weather disasters. Like on TikTok, I remember seeing people, sharing information with each other and saying like, "Oh, I'm lost," or "I can't get to X, Y, and Z because there's water," all this kind of stuff that we're not going to hear on the mainstream media. But I do think there are way more helpers than the media wants us to see, and I think we're at that stage where we understand a lot of the media that we originally consumed is basically co-opted, and corporations aren't going to tell us that we're helping each other. They're going to tell us that Trump is winning, that MAGA is winning, and they have X thousands amount of ICE employees being deployed here, here, and here, but they don't talk about how it's like even if they deploy ICE here and there, the people outnumber them a million to one, and they know that. They just don't want, like, I think that's like an art of war thing. Like, you just never let your enemy know how many of you there actually are, and that's where we're at. They don't want us to know that they are the minority. They're the loud, very rambunctious minority. Um, all right, let's get to this. And I'm gonna put you in a group, so bone collection, MCH. So yeah, I do like the idea of us. Oh well, hold on, let's pose. Let's lock everything. Hide that. Deformation. New bone collection. Def. Create. Let's lock everything and hide that. Alright, so now we go here. Default color. I'll just make these red. And I am more than happy to be corrected on anything that I'm saying, because this is just my opinion on what's going on. If I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. I'd love to be corrected on anything, really. Part 5, squash. 5 on the root. And rotation, 90, scale would be like 5. Oh, that's too big. Well, yeah, that's fine. And the last thing I want to do in edit mode is select all of these. So actually, let me show all the bones. Control F2, go to bones, and change case, make all this uppercase. And now, let's hide these. Go back to pose mode. Now we have a rig, a ball rig. Oh, so the other thing that I want to do is with my rotation. Let's change this as X euler. Nope. Okay, so this could be back there. Lock everything else that won't be used. And then for this, yeah, it's just everything here. Alright. Yeah. Let's get to the graph editor. So, kind of just do a little animation. Character. Ten. What's that? 3. this. Also vector. Oops. Alright, well, I would do rotation, but I don't think it's really going to be seeing that. Okay, this looks. I think it might. Let me just move this. Oh, I guess so. DX. Now for rotation, what I'm going to do for that is. Oh my goodness. Oh, this could still be vector. Vector. Oh, vector. Alright, so I'm just like slowing this down. Oh, that's gonna look weird though. Yeah, it's pretty fast, but it's good. But yeah, so that's pretty much like what I wanted to talk about and do. I'm still gonna keep going with my journey of like rigging. I have like one chapter I just finished, so I'm gonna be practicing doing a bit more of a It's a little bit more complex than this, but you know, when I get to the point where I can do it just like this, where you know I'm not looking at any tutorials to learn how to do it or understand it, then I'll also stream that. But for now, next stream, I'm thinking I might start a different character. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But you know, thanks for watching. If you got this far, comment, like, share, all that kind of stuff. And most of all, just like take care of yourself. Understand that community is really where it's at. Um, all that we really have is each other, um, and just keep that in mind because the corporations, all these powers, they're going to do their best to make it feel like, you know, there's no hope. They're going to make it feel like, we can't fight back. That, we can't work together because keep in mind that 70% of the internet, the dead internet theory, that like it's a lot of bots. There's going to be a lot of people that hey, we should boycott and this day. Then you're going to see in the comments, oh, we can't do that. Don't know if we can do that. How do you know those are real people? Because a lot of the shit that we're seeing online, a lot of the shit that our friends and family are dealing with, they're telling us to our faces. We're having those day to day conversations, and you can't. You, I think we're at that point where most people are tired of what's going on with the current administration and with the way how the world is moving now. And most people want to change that, and that change is leaning more towards. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek. I think us leaning more towards something that's more utopian. I don't think it's possible to be perfect as a society, but that doesn't mean we can't try to take that path towards something that is more equitable, more utopian. Like I said, like the idea that money can't be free is because we're still stuck in the headspace of capitalism, that everything there has to be a profit motive. There has to be essentially the idea of profit over people. But I do believe in a world where people will be over profit, and eventually a world where it'll just be us as people, where we don't have to worry about putting ourselves in debt if we want to educate ourselves because we're interested in bettering the communities that we live in, or the world that we that we live on. Um, or that food, we shouldn't have to pay for food, we shouldn't have to pay for water, we shouldn't have to pay to live on land that ultimately, ancestrally, nobody's really owned. So uh, a world like that does exist, and it takes us to create it. So yeah, see ya.